Good evening. On behalf of the Eastern Cabarrus Historical Society, my name is Sam Treadaway, and I want to welcome you to our Cabarrus County Board of Education Candidates Forum for the year 2020. We here at Mount Pleasant know that the past can inform the future and help us to know the path forward. And it's in that spirit that we were asked to host another forum for our Board of Education, and we complied. We're excited that you're a part of that. We tried to make this as much of a town hall feel as we can during these strange times. Our community had a chance to submit questions and topics, and we were able to discern priorities for those topics from the community. And we had a committee that had to sort through all those entries and come up with final questions for our candidates. Our candidates have seen those questions, and you need to know that they have seen those in advance, and we felt like that would help them and help us if they saw them in advance. The questions will be for all of our candidates, but they will be in random order as far as response. Our moderator will be calling on each candidate when it's time, and they'll have 1 minute for their response. It is my pleasure to introduce our moderator for this evening's forum. He is a graduate of the UNC Chapel Hill undergraduate, and then his JD degree is from Wake Forest University. After that, he was a practicing attorney in private practice for 10 years here in Cabarrus County. But we all know Mr. Hamby as Judge Hamby. The Honorable Judge Hamby was a court judge and chief district judge for 25 years here in Cabarrus County. And at this time, I'd like to turn over the proceedings to the Honorable William Hamby.
Thank you. I appreciate the Eastern Cabarrus Historical Society for this opportunity to hear from the candidates for the Cabarrus County Board of Education. As a former public school teacher myself before I went to law school, I especially appreciate the time and work each of you has put in to improve our county's public schools. Again, each of these questions will be asked to each of the candidates, and there is a random order of answering that has been previously generated. So it's not us picking who's going to answer in what order. First of all, in 1 minute, each of you I would like you to tell us your name and what you see as your qualifications for serving as a member of the Board of Education. And we'll begin with Ms. Denise Adcock.
Hello, I'm Denise Adcock, and I think serving on the Board of Education is about leadership. We need leaders who will unite and empower the education system through the difficulties of reopening our schools safely with options that meet the needs of all of our students. I have 20 years of leadership experience in running large, multifaceted medical clinics, one of them being with our local pediatric subspecialist. So I understand the unique challenges that our children face in school. I've also been a single mother and raised my children alone. So I understand those challenges as well that parents have. I'm ready to partner with the school system, our parents, students, our community, because leadership matters. I'm Denise Adcock, an agent for change and innovation, number 3 on the ballot.
Now, Cindy Furtenbaugh.
Thank you, Judge. Good evening. My name is Cindy Furtenbaugh, and thank you to the Eastern Cabarrus Historical Society for providing this forum. I'm seeking re-election to the school board. First of all, from experience, I have 18 years, I'm in my 18th year on the school board, and that history is important for future decisions. I started out over 32 years ago volunteering in a variety of Cabarrus County schools with junior achievement, communities and schools, and basically supporting my kids in their K-12 education. I have a math degree and have had a long-term information technology career, so I'm often called upon to review technology plans and purchases and whatnot. My project management experience is probably the strongest experience I bring to the board outside being on the board itself. I'm also the proud mother of 2 daughters who went to Cabarrus County schools and a parent of a current teacher. So I ask for your support again this year. Thank you.
Rob Walter.
Good evening. I'm Rob Walter. And thank you for this opportunity to come talk to you tonight and for this forum, so you have an opportunity to get to know some of our candidates. I'm running for re-election as well. I've been on the school board since 2012. At that time, I had 2 kids in elementary school. And just this past year in 2020, I had 1 graduate, and I still have 1 at Concord High School in 10th grade. So I bring a parent perspective to the board. So the decisions the school board makes affects me and my family. I have a passion for student engagement, getting students interested in their own education. We have a track record over the last 8 years, a lot of successes. I go through those a little bit later, but Cabarrus County Schools is doing right now better than we ever have in our history. I put in the work, and I'm involved. You'll see me at sporting events. You see me at band concerts. You see me at choir practice, plays. I'm in the schools. So again, I really appreciate your support to continue to serve Cabarrus County residents. Thank you.
Fred Mary.
Thank you, Judge. My name is Frederick Mary. A lot of people know me as Preach. I have been involved with Cabarrus County Schools for almost 26 years as a band parent, a band grandparent, a volunteer, a football coach, and most recently as a substitute. I've been in the classrooms. I've been with the teachers. I see what they go through. I understand their struggles. And I think this is a benefit for me for running for the school board, is knowing what teachers go through. It's hard to sit back and say they know what a teacher goes through unless you sit in that classroom, unless you've been in the trenches with them. And so I, would like your vote on November the 3rd. I'm number 10 on there, and on the 10, that's always the highest. For if you go from 1 to 10, 10 is always the highest. So I'm number 10. Thank you.
Tim Furr.
Hello, my name is Tim Furr. I was born and raised in Cabarrus County, a graduate of Central Cabarrus High School, along with my 2 kids are both graduates of Central Cabarrus High School. I'm a former high school football and baseball coach. I spent my entire adult life working with kids. I'm a business owner in Cabarrus County. I've spent 2 terms on the board. Was a vice chair at one time. I've always been an advocate for teachers and students, and based on my history of doing that, I would love your support November 3rd.
David Harrison.
Thank you, Judge Hamby, and thank you to the Society for this opportunity. I'm David Harrison, a 20-year resident of Cabarrus County. I'm from Rowan County, and I've been on the board for 8 years. I think in that period of time, I've gotten pretty immersed in child and staff advocacy and school policies, budgets, construction and legislation that all affects how we run the school system here in Cabarrus County. I serve on the church and civics and foundation boards, and contribute some to booster and PTA, PTO organizations. Been on the Envision and leadership teams of the Cabarrus Chamber. And I am married with 3 daughters who were graduates of Cabarrus County. Went to Appalachian, bachelor's and master's from there. And I've been a part-time instructor for 22 years at Rowan Cabarrus and UNC Charlotte, but mainly at Central Piedmont College. And I'm an Eagle Scout, and I'm very proud to put myself out before the county again, and I would appreciate the support and the backing that you've honored me with in 2012 and 2016. Thank you so much.
Catherine Bonds Moore.
Thank you. And I'm Catherine Bonds Moore, a lifelong resident of Cabarrus County and a graduate of Northwest High School. I have 2 children that are both graduates of Cabarrus County Schools. I'm a member of Poplar Tent Presbyterian Church, where I serve as an elder. I have an advanced degree in counselor education from UNC Charlotte, 2 masters, 1 in school counseling, 1 in school administration, and my undergraduate was from Appalachian in elementary ed and middle school math. I've recently retired from Cabarrus County Schools with 35 years experience as a teacher and a school counselor. I have dedicated my entire career to children in Cabarrus County Schools. I've lived the life of a teacher and as a parent, which would provide so much insight as a school board member. So I appreciate your vote on November the 3rd, and I'm number 11.
Naquila Dees Blanton.
Good evening, Your Honor. Nice to see you. It's been a minute. I would like to introduce myself again, Niquela Dees Blanton. I am a native of Mecklenburg County. I'm a mom of 2 children with special needs, married to a local attorney, John Blanton. I have a bachelor's in criminal justice, as well as a master's of education in counseling and development. I have served as a probation parole officer in both Mecklenburg and Cabarrus counties, and I'm currently a licensed clinical mental health counselor, and I have a private practice here in Cabarrus County. I have also a National Disability Rights Advocate certificate, along with some others, but I'm also a person who's passionate about education, which is one of the reasons why I chose to run. I am running because not only do I want the board to mirror the community that we live in, but I also want the board to step up and maybe close the gaps for some of the people who the gaps seem to be continuing to widen right now, whose education I think is at risk. And I just want to be that person to help guide them to find out what their needs are, to also be able to bring some solutions to them. I'm number 4 in the ballot and ask for your vote. Thanks.
Keisha Sandage.
Good evening, everyone. As Judge Hamby said, my name is Keisha Sandage. I'm a wife. I came here in 1996 on a basketball scholarship to Barbara Scotia College. Kind of fell in love with Cabarrus County, and I ended up residing here from that time on. I have 2 children. One of them is a graduate from Concord High School in the year 2018. I have another daughter. She is in the 8th grade at Concord Middle. So I'm a licensed clinical social worker and a licensed clinical addiction specialist. So I want to bring those qualities to our board, and I want to see our board foster a more community-centric approach. I want our community to be a part of our board and a part of the decision-making process, and that is one of the many reasons that I stepped up to run this race. So again, my name is Keisha Sandage. I will be the first name on your ballot under the Cabarrus County Board of Education, and I would love your vote.
I would like to thank each of you for your participation in that question. Our second question, how can our schools in this day and age ensure equitable teaching of all students, both remote and face-to-face? And we'll begin with Catherine Bonds-Moore.
Well, first of all, we need to make sure that all children in the community is receiving the remote services. And I think the school system has done a great job in getting the hot spots to where the children can log on. Of course, as teachers, we pick up, whether it's virtual or in face-to-face, any type of difficulty with children. Again, parent communication is important. We do have a lot of children that are struggling. So we do need to be communicating, and our teachers do a great job in teaching to the needs and meeting the needs of all the students.
Rob Walter.
I think it helps that we have work to try to get Wi-Fi hotspots out there for those that may not have it. We have buses that go to different communities to try to get service. We have a one-to-one with the technology for all of our students. We didn't have that before. We do now. It at least allows us to reach our students in their home. But really, they need to be in the classroom, and we need to work towards getting them there. Partnership with parents, I think, is really important, and maybe like something like a parent university to help teach our parents to help their kids is another example. Having great teachers doesn't matter what school you are. Here in Cabarrus County Schools, you should have an equal education. You have the best teachers.
Naquila Dees Blanton.
Thank you, Your Honor. With respect to the equity in the community, I do believe that the board currently is doing a decent job of getting the technology to the students. However, I think it's necessary for us to go a little step further, Your Honor, and send some persons out, be it social workers, be it educators, to go out and assess the needs directly in these communities that are impacted, because unfortunately, those are the communities that don't have the Wi-Fi connection possibly. So it's difficult for us to get to those families through the technology. Some of them may not have phones. So we've got to figure out how to get someone there to communicate with the community there, the low-income communities or what have you, to figure out what their needs are and how we can meet those needs. So I think there's going to be the need for a liaison of some type, Your Honor, and continue the other efforts that we're already making in order to make this happen and be successful.
David Harrison.
So I think of equity as just basic fairness, human decency. And I'm very confident that the staff and administration of the Cabarrus school system all summer long has been reaching out to families. We have been taking buses to take meals to families in neighborhoods all over the county all summer long. We have, as Mr. Walter, I believe, said, had hotspots and worked with a lot of community partners, churches, for our school bus to go to that parking lot and to piggyback off of the Wi-Fi of that partner, that church or apartment complex. And we're all learning. This is a difficult time, an unprecedented time, and I'm really proud of the teachers and the staff of the school system for being so creative and innovative to implement a good, solid education for our children.
Tim Furr.
Yes, I think the staff are doing everything that they possibly can to make this situation work. But when you have parents and grandparents trying to do a teacher's job, it's almost impossible. What I would have liked to seen us do is got together with like the Logan Community Center, Hartsville Community Center, some churches in other parts of the county back around June and July, and see if we couldn't set up some kind of programs where you had county employees, educators at those sites to be of assistance. But the bottom line is, you got 70% of parents are in favor of going back to school. We have to get those kids back in school to get things back to normal.
Cindy Furtenbaugh.
Thank you. As some of my current colleagues have already mentioned, we got ahead of the purchasing of devices. As folks might imagine, it was actually difficult to get devices in on time because the whole world is ordering new computers and whatnot this time. So we got ahead of that. We did purchase a lot of hotspots, and something unknown to many people is that the district had to pay for the hotspot service. That didn't come from any COVID money or anything, but we felt that was a worthwhile expenditure. Teachers are often right now working double time in order to meet the needs of their students. And we did hire many of the teachers over summer to help build modules and help build a format that could be used by their peers at their grade levels. So we got ahead of that as well. Guidance counselors and principals are currently going out into the communities and visiting when students are not checking in for school. So we have a lot of communication going on there. It's never enough, never as good as being in school, but I'm proud of what the staff has done so far.
Keisha Sandage. Do you need to unmute?
I thought I did that, sorry. I was saying I think equity is a tall glass to fill, but I agree with other folks on the panel that our school system has done, what's within their grasp to do to address this crisis. I think we couldn't have prepared for this. I do think going forward, to ensure that practices are equitable for everybody, we've got to understand the needs of our most vulnerable populations. I believe at this point, it's 1% of our students in our schools that are vulnerable. And in my opinion, you're only as strong as your most vulnerable link in the chain. So we've got to understand what those children need and really start fending for that and making sure that they've got those things in front of them to be able to be successful. I was on a call yesterday and I talked about, there are 3 adults here, and, she broke down to me crying, saying, I'm struggling. I can't do this virtual thing. So I agree. We've got to get kids back to school, and we've got to do that safely. I feel that, we've had some time to get a plan in place, and we've just got to get that done and put it in play.
Fred Mary.
I think the first line of all this is in the teachers. The teachers know what students they have. They know which ones aren't logging on, because that's part of their process, is to log on for each class. So the teachers know which students are available, which ones are logging on. We can throw this thing around every which way we want to, but we have to realize this is part of the parents have to be involved as well as the teachers, and to know that their children are doing what they're supposed to do. That Wi-Fi is a big issue, talking with a lot of parents, talking with even some teachers. But I think the county is doing the best they can right now by putting the buses out, by students able to drive to the schools and be able to pick up the Wi-Fi, even though they have to be sitting in their vehicles. So I think it has to be a community effort. We just can't throw it out to 1 or 2 people. We have to come together as a community and go out. And even if the board members can go out, but whoever can go out to recognize and find these children and to get them what they need. I understand there was a lot of the Chromes were not turned in last year. And so that was a problem. So, you can't get one unless you have one turned in. And so I think there's a lot of issues there, but it boils down to responsibility.
Denise Adcock.
Yes. When I think about this, I think about the pandemic as really giving us an opportunity to see areas where we can improve on in our school system. And I think we have to use innovation and out-of-the-box thinking to make the decisions moving forward and look for new solutions, because the same way that we've done things before is not going to work now. And I think that what I would like to see is that we have a platform that we can have all of communication that comes into the school system through one platform that can be organized. That platform can be used as a feedback mechanism for us to be able to see trends and then to be able to quickly respond and make whatever situation needs to be addressed. I think also that our school functions in a silo, and we need to work more and partner with our nonprofits and resources.
Thank you. Our next question: what measures can the Board of Education use to monitor effectiveness of exceptional children programs? And we'll begin with Naquila Dees-Blanton.
Thank you, Your Honor. I feel honored that you gave me that one. I think that the parents are the greatest source. And so going to the parents and finding out what the parents' needs are and learning how to teach each and every child from the parent first. Again, I've got 2 children with special needs, and some of you've heard it before. No one could teach my children unless I go before them and show them how to teach my children, because just because they have special needs doesn't mean that they all have the same. That means that everything about them is going to be different. So being effective in speaking to the parents and finding out how the child functions best, what rewards work best for the child, figuring out what the parents' goals are, teaching the parents how to understand the IEP in itself, figuring out what it is actually used for and how it drives the child's education. So really aligning with the parent, making sure the parent understands the IEP process, making sure that the teachers and everyone else surrounding this child is able to meet that child's basic needs every single day, Your Honor. Thank you.
Tim Furr.
Yes, sir. We got to understand each kid's needs are different. I think we need more specialized people in speech therapy and audio therapy. I think we have more kids than ever before that are in this program, especially in high school. And I think there's a shortage of people that are able to provide the IEPs for the high school kids. But some of the most important things is we got to listen to doctors. And if the doctors tell you your child needs 4 treatments or 4 sessions, we can't, like give them 2 and think it's okay. We have to, I think, got to listen to doctors a little bit more, and we got to be more passionate with parents. And most importantly, we got to quit jerking these kids around right now and deal with it head up. And I know they're probably suffering more than any of the rest of our kids during this time. So we have to make a special effort to get back to school so we can help these kids.
Catherine Bonds Moore.
Well, first of all, every child has a different learning style. So part of that is finding what works best for that child. As far as the data for EC, we need to be sure that we have training and programs in the county and it's consistent throughout the county. And we've worked on that over the past several years with the tier process and the referral process. And yes, we get a lot of referrals from doctors, and we do need to listen to our doctors. We also need to listen to our parents. Parents know their child better than anyone else knows them. So we need to listen to them, to where their child started and where their child's at now. But the main thing with data is we need to be consistent throughout the school system of all schools and having the same processes.
David Harrison.
Caught me in mid-thought there, Judge. I believe Mr. Furr said this is probably a growing population, and that's absolutely true because while some parents may consider other educational institutions as the right place for their child, I believe that the EC enrollment across Cabarrus County has increased a great deal in the last few years. Obviously, that puts a strain on the staff and the qualified people who provide those services. And maybe our community college systems in this area could partner with us to train EC staff and to improve those services and to have a pipeline of frontline people who help kids in those communities. Just as a point of, just to note, we have 2 attorneys in the school system. We have a general counsel and we have an EC counsel who handles highly technical and sensitive cases.
Keisha Sandage.
So I'm a parent of an EC student as well. And I just tell you, we've got to realize that not everybody has the capacity to be able to send for these children who are, our most vulnerable population in the school district, sometimes, in the world in general. We've got to understand that it's not perfect. We have to be the first to say that we can make changes and we can make this program better. So we've got to first say, you know what? We need to make some changes in EC because I'll tell you, if it wasn't for me advocating for my daughter, I'm not sure what services she would be getting in our EC programs. They're very understaffed and underfunded. And I just think we've got to find money to invest in, like I said earlier, our most vulnerable link in our chain, because, ultimately it affects our entire district. So for me, it would be realizing first that there is a problem and then truly addressing it by bringing, folks together to understand how we can fund this program.
Denise Adcock. You'll need to unmute.
Thank you. I think it's about listening and understanding first to make sure that we partner with our teachers that are teaching EC children and the parents, and understanding the specific needs of the individual students. Because like people have said already, I mean, these are our most vulnerable students. I think advocating for more funding from our county commissioners and really increasing resources for our current teachers. They are burning out, which really needs to be addressed. The teachers don't have adequate support teams. So we need to have strong relationships with our county commissioners and work with them to provide more funding. And as someone who has worked with our local pediatric subspecialists, I understand the increases in childhood disease and how they affect our school system.
Cindy Furtenbaugh.
Okay, with any EC needs, key items, as some other folks already mentioned, are for the parent and the educational provider participation in the IEP and the 504 meetings. We have invested over $3 million additional of local money into our EC program. The majority of EC is funded from the federal government. So there are limitations as far as how we can get additional money, which is in part why it's so important to make sure Washington understands our needs. The EC program is really a partnership, and as difficult as it is, sometimes parents, will want certain supports for their children, and we simply don't have the money. I know that sounds like a terrible excuse, but it is very important that people try to understand how the programs are funded and what we can do. So by increasing our local money for mental health, actually for EC, for teacher assistance, all of those help to converge and help to grow the program.
Fred Mary.
Having worked in the school and working with EC kids, which is an area I really enjoyed, and it's getting to meet the kids and knowing that they are individuals and meeting some parents. I know that staff in the schools are overworked. And one thing I know that happened where I was at as a sub, because the teachers have all these forms they got to fill out, they got the reports they got to do, and it's overwhelming to them. And I think the county can help is when we have substitutes in schools. Is that I know on many occasions when I was subbing, I would give up a period that would be like a planning period to go in and sit in the classroom with that EC teachers so they could finish up their paperwork. Because we got to take the burden off of them. And if we take the burden off of them, then they're going to be better adequate to work with the students and take that stress level away from them. And so that's one area that I would like to see.
And Rob Walter.
I also have a student, an EC student with an IEP. I think that's important, that IEP process. A lot of parents don't even participate like they should. We don't always get all the staff members involved that we should. And it's parent education. A lot of that is they don't even know what services are available and what assistance we can give a student. Setting the right goals is also important, and measuring those. But it is a challenge. Obviously, we've got EC as teachers are probably the hardest ones to fill, and it's a labor of love. But again, we can continue to focus on the partnership because it is a partnership. It's not just a parent teacher. It's not just a parent. It's a whole team. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next question. Understanding that the Board of Education is restrained in its funding avenues, what things, including non-financial things, can the board do to recruit, retain, and develop talented and diverse teachers, administrators, and support staff? And we'll begin with Fred Mary.
Recruiting and hiring teachers is something that I know falls on the superintendent. That I know that they have sent out teachers, principals have gone to other states to recruit, to get new teachers to come in. And I think the effectiveness of this has to come through the county office. This is something that I don't know how much the board would be involved in, but I know the hiring, I know the superintendent is hired by the school board, but then the hiring of some of the other staff falls underneath the superintendent. So I would believe that if we can continue to reach out. And I think another issue is here, we have kids in this county that go on to college to become teachers, and it doesn't seem like they can get a job within the county. We need to keep kids within the county, within the system.
Catherine Bonds Moore.
Well, teaching is one of the hardest jobs you will ever do. And as Cindy says, a lot of them are working double. With virtual learning, they're working around the clock. And especially now with making plans for different schedules. So we do need to be sure we're recruiting top teachers, and we need to be sure we are treating them with respect, and we acknowledge how hard they're working and motivate, and they need to feel supported. And yes, we need to recruit, but we also need to look within our school system when we're looking for promotions too. Again, teachers didn't go into this job for this money. They went in because they had a passion and a love for children. So yes, we do need to respect and acknowledge their hard work.
Cindy Furtenball.
So you're absolutely right when you use the phrase that we're restrained with funding avenues, because the school board doesn't raise any of our own money. We have to go to the different sources to try to get that. To that end, I wanted to mention that the Cabarrus County Education Foundation is providing a scholarship for at least one teacher a year, and David is on that board. He may know more. We give some little benefits to teachers in our district, which actually is a recruiting tool where the children can go to either their home school or their parents' school in either district, so that the teacher as an employee can be closer to where their child is, should there be an emergency or an IEP meeting or a parent-teacher conference or whatever. We've also developed the multi-tiered system of support, MTSS, which includes school social workers, school psychologists, guidance counselors, other folks who are there not only for student support, but for teacher support as well. So we do go out and recruit. We have partnerships with UNC Charlotte in particular. We were one of the highly sought out teaching fellows districts, but that doesn't exist in the way it used to some years ago. Thank you.
David Harrison.
Well, Kat and Cindy have touched on this. Teachers are a unique type of person. They don't want to work for free. I don't mean to imply that. They don't. They want and need and deserve to be treated fairly and well by the county and the state through all those funding mechanisms. But they're passionate. You're not going to find very many other lifetime career paths that people want to take purely out of passion. And that's what really drives teachers. And what I've found time and again is that teachers want professional development. They want recognition. And again, they want these and deserve these things. They need them from the parents and the community. And they need to be recognized and acknowledged. But they also need a strong benefits package that keeps them in the system. Y'all, they ain't doing it for the money. I hope we all understand that. They're not doing it for the money. They do it out of passion.
Naquila Dees Blanton.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think teachers want to be praised just like anybody else. Praise is free. And so finding ways, unique ways to get their name out there when they're doing something that should be rewarded, finding little rewards, partnering with our community partners that we already have and finding ways to reward the teachers. One of the programs that I know that works really well is partnering with dealerships and giving the teachers the benefit of having their cars fixed. Something like that, any kinds of rewards, partnering with, it can be a flower shop, partnering with a clothing store, anything so that we can reward them in other ways. Small rewards matter. Again, David just said it, development and training. Teachers also want to be equipped with the best education themselves so that they can bring that to their students. And lastly, I will say that looking for teachers' creativity and allowing them to use that, feel like they are not being allowed to use their gifts in the ways that they feel are best serve their students. And I know that because there's educators in my family, and that's a lot of times their thing is we're being told how to teach. So allowing for more opportunity and creativity.
Tim Furr.
It's pretty hard to answer that question with all the great answers that have already been given. But I think we've done a pretty good job of recruiting. I know historically we would go to college campuses and have college fairs and to recruit teachers. We go to historically Black colleges as well to try to get those as many different variety of teachers that we can possibly get to meet to reflect what our school system is. Just little things like people have spoke about. Anything we can do to help them and to reward them and to give them some kind of discounts through daycare or whatever is a plus, because let's be honest, I've been out of school 40 some years, and those people are still to this day, I consider them, partly responsible for who I am. I'm still in touch with teachers. They're underappreciated, they're undervalued, they're underpaid. We all know that. So basically, they're to me, they're a gift from God. Not many people can do what they do. So it takes a special person, and I don't know what we can do to help them understand that, but they are definitely valued in this school system. And I just want them to understand that their job is never taken for granted. And one thing that I know we've done in the past, as someone mentioned about, we do, if you're a graduate of Cabarrus County Schools, your name kind of gets put to the top. We love to have former students as employees of the school system. And there's been a conscious effort made, I know probably the last 10 years, to make that happen.
Keisha Sandage.
I've been a long time advocate for our teachers way before campaigning for the school board. And the answer to this question, I love, the answer that we've already received, but the answer to this question is simple. If we treat our teachers like we say we value them and we give them a voice to be a part of the decisions that are being made, we will have folks knocking down our doors to be teachers here in Cabarrus County. So I think I just answered that as simply as I could. Treat the teachers that you have well, and others will follow.
Rob Walter.
I think as Tim said, we all have a teacher that we can remember that made a big impact on our lives. But I think the thing here is teachers want to be heard, and teachers want to be, we have a teacher survey that we have every year. Then we as board members need to take the time to look at that. And we have in the past, and one of those things that came out was planning time. And we've worked as a board to increase the planning time, especially for our elementary school teachers, as something that came out of that, as listening to teachers. There's a paperwork burden that teachers have. There's also issues with testing. Are we testing too much? Are they getting the support they need from the administrators? So there's a lot of different things that we could probably work on that are not technically related to the teacher pay, although that is an important issue. And attracting more teachers to the profession is important, as is working with online recruiting. One of the things I did when I got on the board was to get Cabarrus County Schools on LinkedIn. So we now have that avenue as well to recruit with. And then lastly is the school calendar. I mean, I think that's important and overlooked sometimes. So you want these huge breaks, many weeks without any breaks at all. We need to consider teachers when we do our school calendar.
Denise Adcock.
Thank you. So I think more about teachers and building relationships with them so they feel cared about. I think, as already has been mentioned, increasing the appreciation efforts to the school system teachers by partner with our local businesses to offer special offers and rewards, but creating a culture of diversity and inclusion so that everyone feels included. And we need to attract more minority teachers. Teachers do need a voice, and they need to have a voice within the decisions that are being made because they affect their process of how they relate to their students. They are the frontline workers. So opening the doors for teachers to feel included is really important. And I think, they're our most important asset in our school system. So advocating with our local county commissioners is really important because we want to make sure that they increase the teacher supplements every year, and then going above and beyond and advocating with our state legislators in Raleigh and, putting pressure from a state level on it as well to increase across the board teacher salaries.
Thank you. I appreciate your interest in each of these questions, but I do want to admonish you that over half of the answers in this particular question went beyond the 1 minute. And while 1 minute is a very small amount of time to deal with all of these issues, nevertheless, we want to be able to get to as many of these questions as possible. So our next question, what experience have you had in working with diverse teams that prepares you to collaborate on group decision-making? And we'll begin with Denise Adcock.
Thank you, Judge. This is one of my strengths as a leader, is working in multifaceted medical facilities, which are also federally regulated. And then working with lots of diverse groups, professionals, physicians, nurses, front staff members. I've had to make a lot of decisions where we involved a team that was very diverse. So making a strategic plan and then working that strategic plan out to get buy-in and engagement from a team is important. You cannot make any type of changes without buy-in. And I think that that is primarily what needs to happen when you think about change. Change can be hard for people to accept, but I think that when you as a leader can show the vision and the place that we are trying to work towards, they can better understand where you're trying to lead them.
Tim Furr.
Yes, I've been a manager at a manufacturing facility in Cabarrus County, one of the largest in Cabarrus County at one time for over 20 years. And I had a lot of diversity in my departments. Matter of fact, I guess it's probably the reason I don't have a whole lot of hair. I had about 30 women working for me at one time. And so that alone is pretty diverse and makes me qualified, I think. But also being a former high school football coach really definitely qualifies me for being able to handle these type of situations in these settings. So that's pretty much what I got to offer there. I'm gonna help you make it short, Judge.
Thank you. Catherine Bonds-Moore.
Well, being in the school system for 35 years, I served on a lot of different committees. Probably the hardest one was that I served on the school improvement team at Odell and chaired it for 10 years. So there you're working on a budget and you're trying to hear everyone's story, and you've got to remember that you're looking at a whole picture and not just one grade level or one individual. And of course I serve as an elder at my church, but the whole thing about serving on any committee with diversity is that you respect everyone's opinion and you listen to everyone's opinion. A lot of times there's things that come up that you didn't think about, or you haven't experienced. So it's all about working together as a team and listening to each other and being kind and trying to come up with the best options and solutions.
Keisha Sandage.
This is going to sound a little funny, but I am diversity. I'm a social worker, and I've been in some of every setting you can imagine. I've supervised psychiatrists, I've supervised social workers, I've supervised MDs. So I feel like I bring that to any table that I walk into. You know, I look different from everybody. I'm a Black girl with short hair and glasses. So I feel like just my personality, meeting people where they're at, is what I have to ingrain into my spirit, into how I interface with people every day.
Fred Mary.
I believe my first time of dealing with any diversity was being an NCO in the military, because you run into people from different walks of life and different cultures. But I also believe working in the school system itself, being around different kids of different nationalities again. And like Tim, being a football coach, you worked with these kids day in and day out, and you saw how they were. You became not only their coach, you became their friend, you became their mentor, and you heard stories from them that sometimes would curl your hair. And it's just to know that they want to be known. They want to be, you know, accepted for who they are. And that's what diversity is. It doesn't make any difference who they are, but are we accepting them because of their way of life, their national origin? And I think that's very important.
David Harrison.
So a few members here have told me before that I'm a nerd, and I know that. I'm an English major, and I'm a technical writer in a bank. That means that I work with technology people who are brilliant. All of their IQs are off the scale. Sometimes they are in Mumbai, India, or far away, and certainly these days they can be next door, but they're still online. And when we go through these projects where we're making a group decision, as Keisha said, the thing you do is you meet people in the middle, and you not only that, but you also use your skills to augment their skills with no agenda of your own, all to meet a group goal on time and in budget. Ms. Furtenbach can testify to that kind of mentality working through corporate projects. Thank you.
Rob Walter.
I like the answers that we've been given so far. To add to that, I guess it's valuing those differences, those values, those strengths, because everybody is unique. My first experience actually in diversity was when I was at my church. I had to organize a Habitat for Humanity house, and that was a very different group of people, all coming together with one goal in mind, to provide a family with a house. And those people that were getting that house worked just as hard as everybody else. So it was a wonderful experience for me as a young 20-something to get involved with that. Diversity with the City of Concord, we've got a wide variety of people that we interact with every day. And you've, again, got to value those differences and understand there are differences.
Cindy Furtenbach.
As a project manager in a couple major corporations, I experienced diversity and had to lead teams that were all across the world in different time zones and literally on 6 continents. So I feel comfortable with working with anybody. And I wanted to share just from within the school system, from a diversity of opinions. For the budget committee, we invite teachers to participate, administrators, and members of the community. So we get a whole variety of opinions. And teachers are on many other committees. For example, I serve on the technology and the curriculum instruction committees, and we have teachers on those committees as well. So they bring different insights. And I always like to think about it, especially with the commissioners, and we've had some difficult commissioners over the years to support education. You have to nurture relationships. So whether that be with teachers to have an open line of communication, or with the commissioners, or with members of the public. It's important that you nurture those relationships, and even with your fellow school board members. Thank you.
Naquila Dees Blanton.
Thank you, Your Honor. I pride myself on building relationships with others, people who are not like me, for the purpose of growth, Your Honor. I have been experiencing diverse interactions ever since kindergarten, having grown up on the west side of Charlotte and being bused 45 minutes to the south side of Charlotte, and had 9 years of education experience in that way. Graduate school, PTO, school improvement team. You've heard me say I've been a law enforcement corrections officer, absolutely working alongside of persons from different and varying backgrounds, as well as going into their home, supervising, taking them into custody for that matter, and also having to know how to communicate with them in that way. Counseling. We can talk about the gamut. It's just like Keisha said, when you're doing counseling, you're seeing everybody, kids, the military, at risk, homeless, sex offenders, you name it. I have also got to say that I have to pride myself on the fact that I've been rewarded and awarded for being able to get along with people and building relationships with diverse people.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
The next question, how would you educate yourself regarding school issues and prepare for Cabarrus County School Board of Education meetings? And we'll begin with Cindy Furtenbaugh.
Well, Judge, that question was made for me. I'm probably known as the, over the years, as the best student of the district. I have my little process where I start preparing for meetings on Monday meeting on Friday and work through it, send staff questions ahead of time. It's important to me that I treat staff professionally so that they are able to be prepared to answer the questions either ahead of time, provide clarifications, or go ahead and answer the questions in public in the meeting. Sometimes they're minutia questions, sometimes they're big questions. So one example, just this past Monday at our meeting, we had a proposal for the YMCA on there. I asked enough questions that I found out that they had to have the approval by Monday. So I asked our chair if we could amend the agenda. So, and this week, ironically, with education for board members, I have been attending a school law conference each morning, and we'll have one more set of 4 hours tomorrow. So I work hard to be educated.
Rob Walter.
Thank you. And like Cindy, we do take a lot of time, and it's more than just 2 meetings a month. I mean, for me, when you get an agenda, those are lengthy agendas, and to ask good questions and be able to represent the public's interest, you got to know what those issues are. And I'll go through each one of those items, and it can take me 9 hours at times to research every one of the policies, read all the policies, compare those to what other school districts are doing, talk to staff, try to get input from the public, from contacts that I have. And then it's asking, like Cindy mentioned, is asking good questions. You don't have all the answers. So you've got to be able to learn to ask good questions.
Keisha Sandage.
I'm really big on having all the information that I need in front of me to make a good decision. So I like Cindy's approach and Rob's approach. I really feel like reading and reviewing the information prior to the meeting, making sure that you understand how the policies work. And, I think with policies, you can drive a truck through some of them, just making sure that, we kind of dotted our I's and crossed our T's prior to getting into that meeting so that we're not spending time just discussing what we should already have a good understanding of. I think also garnering support from within our communities and seeing what their thoughts are about what we're reviewing, making sure they're a part of those discussions. Our teachers are a part of those discussions. I think our students need to be a part of those discussions as well. But for the most part, I just make sure that I'm prepared by reviewing what's in front of me before we get there.
Denise Adcock.
Yes, I think that I would just become a student of the education system and be prepared for the meetings by researching the agenda, reading and asking questions, as others have mentioned, and then just understanding the topics, listening to feedback that we would get from our school system teams, our teachers, our students, our parents, and then listening to understand and not to respond is one of my favorite quotes. I think sometimes we listen just because we want to have something to say instead of really trying to understand what's going on. And then I like to use data and statistics. So I think that data and statistics are really necessary for the Board of Education to be able to make decisions that will really be effective and will have sustainable outcomes.
Niquila Dees Blanton.
Thank you, Your Honor. Is it possible that I can just copy Denise's paper? The only thing I was going to bring to the table differently was going to be the data, Your Honor. I think that's really important to make sure that we have the data, to make sure that everything is accurate, that we verify what is in front of us. As Keisha said, it's in front of you, and being clear and concise about moving forward. So great answers, and those are the ways and the means that I would use, Your Honor.
David Harris.
So being on this school board, at least, is drinking from the fire hose. Board members here know that that is a nonstop flow of information from state associations, from internal committees and policy and construction, and the budget process is at least a 4-month process, and just a lot of minutia to deal with. Redistricting. We go through a tremendous amount of information all the time, and it's at least 30 hours a week in normal times. It's very comprehensive. We work with the county very closely to understand their budget priorities and their abilities to support our needs. And I like to think that I'm a listener and a learner of all those inputs.
Tim Furr.
Yes, sir. I believe the most important thing is asking questions, communicating with your other board members, communicating with students, teachers, parents, make you more effective. I always tell people you got to have your sources. It's almost like being a detective. You need to have people in the community that can help you find out really what's going on. And fortunately for me, being in athletics and being around coaches every day, which are teachers, and then the players, which are students, it really, I always thought it gave me an advantage. I would really get to the core of what was going on. I also think too, if a board chair plays an important role in this. I've been under board chairs that they would call you every Sunday night and ask you, do you have any questions? Is there anything I can help you with? Is there any information that you need that you don't have to help you make good decisions? So when you got to the meeting, you kind of know where people stood. We communicated. 2008, 2012, when I was first on the board, we communicated all the time. My last time I was on the board, we communicated with each other hardly at all. And I think that's what makes meetings last so long. And I think we also, certain members of the board grandstand sometimes. They know they have an audience and they think they got to talk. And a lot of that's unnecessary. If you're prepared, you don't have to do that.
Catherine Bonds Moore.
Well, as we've stated, being on the school board is more than 2 nights a month. I've got an advantage as being a past educator. I will understand a lot of the language, but I don't understand all the roles of a school board. So I'm hoping there's a lot of in-service. I would want to attend as much in-service as I could to learn what is the role and what makes you a good school board member. And then, of course, like everyone else, the secret is when you get that agenda is that you read all the way through it. And if you do have questions, then you do reach out to the source that has the answer. But being prepared.
Fred Mary.
I think the biggest thing is communication and education. It's being within the school. You hear the teachers' concerns, you hear students' concerns. And basically, too, knowing what the role of the school board is, what the school board can do and what the school board can't do. And I think another big facet for being new on the school board is reaching out to the experienced board members who's already been there, who's been through the fire, who's done it. Because you can't beat experience. Experience is hard to beat, and I don't care who it is. We should rely on experience of those who's gone before us, even past school board members that you can be in contact with. Just know what's going on, know what the agenda is, and be prepared. Don't walk into the meeting and say, what's going on? And that's, I guess, just like Tim said, that's where the chair needs to put that information out. And we should have it, not Monday morning, but we should have it Sunday evenings.
Thank you. Our next question is not just related to the current pandemic, but all of the curriculum more and more is available in less in books and more online. How can the Board of Education ensure that all students are successful at accessing the curriculum and receiving effective instruction in that way? We'll start with Tim Furr.
You know, this is one of the toughest questions, and so I kind of figured you would ask me that question first. You know, this is one that's, like I said, it's one of the tougher questions that we had to deal with. As a board member, you have to listen to the educators. I had a saying that I said quite often when I was on the board before, that you got to let the educators educate. There's a lot of things as board members, such as curriculum, that we don't get involved in a whole lot. And so that's where you got to develop trust with your staff that they're going to provide the necessary tools and necessary information to the students where they can have a chance to be successful. So here again, I'd have to go back to my answers for years is, you know, you got to depend on the experts in this one.
Fred Mary.
I think along the line of what Tim said, the teachers are the front line to this. The school board isn't inside the school. They don't know what's going on in the classrooms, but the teachers do. And it has to be a partnership between the teachers and the parents and the students. It's got to be a three-way street. One can't do it without the other. They got to bind together and come together. And it's just knowing what's going on. And parents, they need to know they can contact the teachers, and teachers should feel free to contact the parents if they don't see things are going right with the students. And again, I go back to a partnership and everybody educate themselves. What is the role of each one? The parents' role, the student's role, and the teacher's role.
Denise Adcock.
Yes, I think that working with feedback is a really big deal when we think about making decisions. And this is one of the goals that I have created for myself in becoming a school board member, is to create an online feedback platform for the school system, for parents and the public, that there would be a method to our madness, and using that information, organizing that information by school, by the different types of topics, and then being able to compilate a report from that will give us data. It will give us trends. We will be able to see things that are going on in real time, and then we would be able to address those needs as the Board of Education. And then again, I think relationship building with our educators and our teachers so that they have a voice and know that they can come to the Board of Education with concerns they have and needs.
Keisha Sandage.
As a board, we need to make ourselves accessible to the folks who are, with what Mr. Mary said, the professionals. I think we can assume that we do that, but just in talking to teachers and talking to parents down this campaign trail, and then being a parent myself, I don't know that that's happening as much as it needs to be for us to truly address issues and truly get to the root of what's happening in our schools. I do think that, teachers need to know that they have a voice. Our parents need to also know that they have a voice and someone is listening to them, and not only listening, but doing something about what may be going on in their lives and what's stopping our children from being the best that they can be.
Cindy Furtenbaugh.
So one of the committees I participate on is curriculum instruction. I certainly understand that I am not the curriculum expert and defer to those who are, but I use my background, my project management background in particular, to ask questions about what people are reporting on, to attend different meetings if a new topic is coming up. It's very important that we as board members understand that we are not to take the place of the teacher. We can certainly get feedback and send that feedback to Dr. Lauder, but it's very important that we understand we are not the curriculum experts, with the exception of Catherine Bonds-Moore, perhaps, who has been an educator. The budget committee, which I also serve on, reviews the request from the curriculum and instruction department. So we get to hear and learn a little bit more through even the budget committee on what is needed, how they want to make improvements. So I very much enjoy participating in the C&I various meetings.
Catherine Bonds-Moore.
Well, the one thing with curriculum is it changes all the time. But teachers do a great job in finding different resources of teaching the curriculum. You mentioned technology, and children really do quite well with that. The problem is we have a lot of children being raised by grandparents that may not have those technology skills to help. I attended every curriculum night for both of my children, and that, we need to continue doing that, because when textbooks first went online, I was completely lost. Now that's the way the world is going. Everything is online. So I think one thing is keeping communication and continuing the curriculum nights to inform parents, because we as parents need to be able to help our children. And we also don't need to, right now we are having to rely so much on technology. But again, our teachers do a great job in pulling in all different resources.
Naquila Dees Blanton.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, could I ask you to repeat the question just so I make sure I'm clear in answering it?
Certainly. How can the Board of Education ensure that all students are successful at accessing the curriculum and receiving effective instruction from the curriculum?
Thank you. In receiving instruction, I think we've kind of touched on that several times, and right now it's a difficult time as to how they're going to access it. But to be honest with you, I think this is an opportunity for us to be creative in our ways that kids access, in allowing additional options for accessing the curriculum. We now know that technology is a viable option. We've talked about books that were of old. We've talked about paper copies of things. So I think that kids can access the curriculum in a lot of different ways, and they can also, we haven't said this, but they can also be a part of the process. I think it's important for children to be able to align with the teachers and work together with them as stakeholders as well, because they've got to learn to be responsible for their own education as well.
Rob Walter.
As a board member, I'm going to look at the data, and the data tells me, are we able to move a child 1 year's worth of growth in a year's period of time? And then I look at the data. The data tells us that we've gone from 65% of kids meeting or exceeding growth 3 years ago to 92%. And that's something we're doing right. We have a rock star in Dr. Crystal Hill, who has a plan and sets goals high and comes up with strategies to address the growth in kids. And we've really been doing a good job in that area from my perspective, looking at the data.
David Harrison.
So there's a really wrong impression among people that teachers are all fall summer long. Any educator, and I like to think I have a little feather in my cap as being a part-time instructor, knows that a teacher is always trying to improve the product and the delivery of the instruction that they are providing, and they're constantly doing research. Teachers are working all summer long to improve the classroom management and the skills that they get to kids, but also sharing it with other teachers in their learning communities. They're also being very creative. And I really do believe parent involvement is really key, but involvement in a partnership that makes the parents and the teachers co-equals, if you will, to get that kid educated, get that kid advancing in their learning.
Thank you. Well, our time is running short. I'm not sure we have time for another question and closing statements. So I believe it's time we begin with closing statements. But as a part of that, we may give you a little bit extra time, just a few seconds. And in your closing statements, you may want to consider if there's some other issue that you think we have not included or not had time to include that you think is important as you look toward service on the board. And in these closing statements, we'll begin with Denise Adcock.
Thank you. This has been great. Thank you so much for having this forum. And, as I'd like to close out, I'd just like to say that we as a community, I think our school system needs to be surrounded by community, that we do everything possible that we can to provide our children and youth with a world-class education. We know that early education programs are critical for the advancement of our children to be more prepared to enter school. And we have to look at that and how can we increase those programs and the effectiveness of those programs. And then really thinking about high school and graduation, what can we do to increase the opportunities for our high school graduates that are not going to college? Are there ways that we can increase the different schools that we have to include technical schools? And most importantly, as a board member, I want you to know that I'll lead by example and advocate for our teachers and our school system. Thank you, Denise Adcock.
Naquila Dees Blanton.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would just like to say again, thank you for this opportunity. And I would like to let the people listening know that if I am elected, that I will continue to have a focus on low performing and high need schools, that I will be working towards additional program options, program choice, additional services for the EC children. I'm also looking at working towards getting the wraparound services that I believe that we need here in the county. And if elected, then I will do my very best to represent the county respectfully and very politely as I move forward in that. Number 4, please. Thank you.
Tim Furr.
Yes, I just want to say for the EC parents that are out there, I think during my other 2 terms on the board, and I don't think we were educated enough on their needs. I don't think it was discussed enough. I think we're going to have to definitely pay more attention to that program. And I promise if I get elected, that is definitely going to happen. I've always been there. My other 2 terms, I was always there for parents. That's what I pride myself into. I talk to them on the phone. I go to events. I'm around parents. I understand their needs. And just like, Keisha said a couple forums ago, that when she used to come to school board meetings, I was the one school board member that she felt like listened to her. And so that's my reputation. I'm the common sense school board member. I know Cindy's she's not gonna say it out loud, but one of the forums she texted me and told me she missed my common sense. So thanks, Cindy. And I just want to let you know that I will listen to those 70% of the parents that want their kids to go to school. to me, it's got to go. It's got to happen. We're doing an injustice for those kids, and I think we have failed them. This board has, and it's football season. I miss those Friday night lights. I miss the band. I miss the cheerleaders. I miss it all, and I feel awful sorry for parents and the kids are missing out on this opportunity because these are lifetime memories. Thanks.
Cindy Furtenbaugh.
Well, thank you again to the sponsors and to my fellow candidates for the insight provided in this forum. While on the surface, school board often does seem like it's 2 meetings a month, but I believe we're all best informed when we make decisions after we participate in committees and hearings, ask questions, and adequately prepare for every meeting. Decisions I make, votes I make are not taken lightly. I prepare using all data available to me and not just on what may be a popular opinion. As mentioned before, I also attend training as I'm doing this week to better understand the COVID law as it affects school. We owe that dedication to the people who elected us. During my recent 2 years as chair, I worked hard to facilitate smooth meetings and be welcoming to our guests. Even those who disagreed with me on difficult topics have shared that they value my professionalism to hear varying opinions from the public and from my board colleagues. Outside of board duties, I continue to engage in my community and church with food pantry drives for CCM. I recently completed the Guardian Ad Litem training to be an advocate for children in difficult home situations. And I've joined several other candidates to not campaign in early voting to allow voters to feel more comfortable and to further slow the spread in Cabarrus County. I too want to get the kids back to school. We just have to do it safely for everyone involved. Thank you for your past support, and I ask for your support again this year. I'm number 5 on the ballot, and I think people know this really long last name. Thank you.
Rob Walter.
Again, thank you for this opportunity to join in this forum tonight. It's been educational for me as well. Again, I have a parent perspective. I'm parent representation on the board. I understand the school system. We're 8 years of experience now. We have a record of success. We've done a lot of good things in the last 8 years and will continue to, like supporting teacher supplement and raises, adding technology. So we're now a one-to-one school system. Student engagement and programs for choice programs that we have are outstanding that I don't think another system in the state can really match what we're doing. Everything, we now have an arts program that goes through 8th grade now. Language immersion, early college, all kinds of academies, IB, STEM. We've got all those options for students to be engaged. We've dealt with growth. We've added over 4,000 students to our school system since I've been on the board. We've built 7 schools. We've got 1 under construction and 2 more that are being planned. We've increased partnerships with the community. I think we have 42 community partners now. There's 26 companies that are offering internships to our students. We've enhanced the mental health services that we offer. So there's a lot of things that I'm focused again on parent involvement, student engagement, supporting great teachers. I mean, that's what I'm all about. There's a lot of quality people here tonight, as you can see, interested in serving on the board. But I ask for your vote. If you've got any further questions for me, if I can clarify anything, or if you want to help, I've got a website, www.voterobwalter.org. See me there. Thank you.
Keisha Sandage.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to our constituents again. Quote, we need a mad shakeup on this board, unquote. My name is Keisha Sandage, and I'm your 2020 candidate for the Cabarrus County Board of Education. I'm running because I believe more transparency and accountability is needed on our school board. Additionally, I would like to make more community participation that includes direct involvement in how the district operates. I want our children and our faculty to be safe within our schools. My desire is a broad coalition to support and foster a community-centric approach to decision-making. On November 3rd, I am number 1 on your ballot. I love saying that. Let me say that again. I am number 1 on your ballot. My name is Keisha Sandage. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm a licensed clinical addiction specialist. I'm a mom to a current Cabarrus County student and one who's previously graduated. I would love your vote on November 3rd, or if you exercise your right during early voting. Thank you.
Fred Mary.
Again, thank for this forum. I think it was very informative, and I hope it makes people wonder of who they should vote for. I have to be like Tim. I think we need to get our kids back in school and do it safely. And they got the guidelines. I know that Dr. Cohen laid out the guidelines, and I think what's happened is a lot of parents have gotten confused, and hearing from them, they had daycare, they canceled their daycare, saying their kids are going back to 4 days, and they went back and they were told those spots were filled. I think vocational schools are important. A great program is at Concord High School, where they have the fire academy, EMT, and law enforcement. And 1 out of 5 students that graduate goes to college. What are we doing for the other 4? So I believe this is vocational. And I believe the strength of being in the school is a big asset to be on the board. I don't think it hurts anybody to be in that school, to know what the teacher's going through and understand how valuable the teachers really are.
Catherine Bonds Moore.
And thank you for this opportunity tonight. I have dedicated my entire career to children in Cabarrus County schools. My first job was as a student bus driver for Odell and Northwest. So I know what it's like to be a bus driver. I can relate to bus drivers and to transportation department. That's not an easy job. As I said earlier, I served on the school improvement team for 10 years as chairperson at Odell, where we worked on our school budget to turn into the board. I'm good with numbers with my certification in math, so I have an idea of what it's like to work on a budget. Since my retirement, I have volunteered as an advocate for Mental Health of America through Parent Voice, because anytime you're working with EC, the laws change, and that's one of my passions, that I wanted to keep up to date with all the current EC procedures. I was honored to receive the Impact Through Education Award from the school board in 2015 for my service at Odell. And I just want to continue my journey and being an advocate for our community and our children. So again, second from the bottom, number 11, Catherine Bonds Moore.
David Harrison.
Thank you, Judge Hamby and the Eastern Cabarrus Historical Society. What y'all are preserving is really crucial and important for the whole county. What we did not touch on are the contributions and the important services provided by our nurses and our SROs, school resource officers in each school. Those people are also crucial to keeping kids safe and healthy, and they deserve your support. In the same vein, I happen to believe that Dr. Louder's leadership is excellent. And I don't feel comfortable with second guessing the expertise of he and his staff, because doing so leads to a measure of chaos, as we've seen recently. And I regret that. And supporting that staff is important and crucial for any school board member. I'm David Harrison, middle of your ballot, and I would greatly and be honored by and grateful for your support and votes. Thank you.
And this concludes our candidate forum. I want to give thanks to each of you as candidates for taking the time and effort to undertake this promotion of our public schools, and your work, as I said before, it's very important. And I hope each of the voters will take the opportunity to learn as much as they can about the candidates so that they can make the decisions best for the future. I would also like to thank once again the Eastern Cabarrus Historical Society for this opportunity to hear from the candidates. And I believe that will conclude our session for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night and thank you.